Greetings, I'm Elizabeth. I'm 36 years old. I find myself in a new chapter of life as a single woman. In the past, I was married to someone named Henry, who, unfortunately, turned out to be quite a challenging partner. His parents, Joseph and Anna, were no better, and together they consistently made me feel quite uncomfortable. To be honest, Henry and I were both successful in our careers and were financially stable. However, despite our achievements, his parents never acknowledged my contributions, and instead labeled me, who was taking advantage of their son. Henry played a role in this by constantly portraying me as fortunate to have married him, insinuating that I desired a luxurious life that only he could provide. Unbeknownst to his parents, I managed most of the finances in our household. Despite my efforts, Henry perpetuated the misconception that I was financially dependent on him, adding strain to our relationship. His parents even went so far as to have us sign a prenuptial agreement, believing I wouldn't amount to anything and wanting to protect their son's interests. While I don't object to the concept of prenups, what bothered me was that Henry never discussed it with me. He consistently misled his family about our financial situation, falsely claiming that I earned significantly less than him and relied on him entirely. In my love for Henry, I tolerated insults and humiliation from both him and his family. It pains me to admit that I made a mistake in marrying him. Henry didn't truly care for me or respect me. Instead, he regularly belittled me for earning less and spending what he falsely claimed was his money. In reality, he had lost his job 2 years ago and was dependent on me, a fact he desperately wanted to keep hidden from his parents. As time passed, Henry's behavior wore on my patience. He refused to actively seek employment, continuously draining my savings. The breaking point came when I independently purchased a house, marking the end of our troubled relationship. I received an inheritance from a relative and started saving to build a fund for buying a house. When I found the perfect match, a beautiful house that I instantly fell in love with, I purchased it and put the title in my name only. Despite Henry not contributing financially to the purchase, he continued to protest. I reminded him that he hadn't paid anything towards it, but his persistent pestering became unbearable. The breaking point came when, during a family dinner, Henry's parents brought up the topic of the house. They expressed excitement about us buying a big, unique house and asked if we had moved in yet. Despite Henry and I having already finalized the deal and moved in, Henry's mother assumed he had contributed significantly due to his modest salary. When Henry's mom questioned if we had bought the house jointly, I anticipated Henry would correct her and acknowledge my full ownership. However, he shocked me by claiming he had paid for the entire house, citing his successful job and substantial savings as the reasons for buying it in his name. His parents showered him with praise, declaring him a successful and independent homeowner. Despite my attempts to get Henry's attention and rectify the situation, he avoided eye contact deliberately. Frustrated and angered by the situation, I managed to control my emotions, choosing not to confront him in front of his parents. Upon our departure, I couldn't help but question Henry about his revelation to his parents regarding the house purchase. I asked him, "What on earth was that, Henry? Why did you claim to have bought the house entirely on your own and a penny on it?" Henry tried to ease my concerns, saying, "Relax, Elizabeth. I just wanted to make them happy. I didn't want them to suspect that I lost my job. They would be extremely disappointed. What else was I supposed to do?" Frustrated, I responded, "You could have at least mentioned that we went 65 on the house. Instead, you took all the credit for the purchase. This feels humiliating and unfair, Henry." He dismissively stated, "Look, what's done is done. I'm not going back to correct myself. I won't humiliate myself like that. Who cares what my parents think? Let them believe what they want." Reflecting on the situation, I realized that something had changed in Henry after our marriage. He seemed to no longer care about me or my feelings, and it became apparent that he had been relying on me for the past 2 years. Despite showing signs of finding employment again, he even argued about putting his name on the house title. As I grappled with the realization that he was using me, a more significant issue unfolded. One evening, as I prepared a snack, the doorbell rang, prompting Henry to hurriedly open the door with a hint of uneasiness. To my shock, I discovered his parents at the door, bringing all their belongings. They expressed joy at staying in the new house Henry had supposedly bought for free, citing his invitation. Feeling blindsided, I listened as Henry played along, claiming it was his idea to have them move in, stating that they needed to stay in the spacious house since he had purchased it. At that moment, it became clear that Henry's deceitfulness extended beyond his parents, and I began contemplating what steps to take next. My disbelief was palpable as I processed the information. In no conceivable reality did I ever consent to Henry's decision to let his parents stay in our house. It was evident that the facade surrounding the house had spiraled out of control. However, I hesitated to confront Henry in the presence of his family. There was no way I would permit his parents to live in my house, but I sought a tactful approach to handle the situation. Meanwhile, Henry's parents continued to indulge in wishful thinking, expressing their delight at living in a spacious house. They showered praise on Henry for his supposed success, proclaiming our home to be magnificent. Their excitement grew as they discussed the prospect of having 3 bedrooms, with plans to claim the largest one. Frustrated and increasingly angry at the unexpected intrusion and presumptuous demands, I decided it was time to address the issue privately. I suggested to Henry that we have a conversation away from his parents, who seemed oblivious to the brewing tension. Henry, sensing the severity of the situation, began avoiding eye contact, realizing he was in trouble. Annoyed by my in-laws' sudden arrival and their audacious requests, I confronted Henry about his unilateral decision. As I expressed my displeasure, Henry, perhaps fearing the impending confrontation, attempted to deflect by proposing that we discuss the matter openly in front of his parents. Unfazed, I responded, "Are you sure about that, Henry? Well, if you don't mind discussing it in front of your parents, then neither do I. Elizabeth, go ahead and tell me what you want." With a stern tone, I addressed Henry, making it clear that his parents would not be living in our house. I emphasized my discontent with his failure to consult me before extending the invitation, questioning the appropriateness of his actions. In defense, his mother vehemently asserted that it was Henry's house and he could do as he pleased. The brewing conflict hinted at deeper issues in our relationship, leaving me contemplating the path forward. "Certainly, he doesn't require your approval to retain us here. Know your place, Elizabeth. You can't address our son in that manner. Exercise caution to avoid being asked to leave. Cease behaving like a spoiled individual and guide us to the most spacious room. We can't delay any further. Escort us to our designated room." "No, I don't believe I'll comply with that, Anna." My audacity left Anna and Joseph utterly astonished. I wasn't certain whether I should resent them or not. Granted, they are quite entitled individuals, but it was Henry's fault for deceiving his parents. If Henry hadn't misled them and invited them, we wouldn't be facing this issue. Nonetheless, I acknowledge that Anna and Joseph are not entirely blameless. They stood in my home, threatening eviction. It's challenging for me to overlook that. "What do you mean, Elizabeth? If you don't guide us to the room our son Henry assured us of, we'll have to take matters into our own hands. We left our rented apartment for this reason. We came here today because Henry vowed to care for us. He's a good man who knows how to look after his parents. He invited us to stay in his new home, prompting us to terminate our lease prematurely. In that case, Anna and Joseph, you've made a grave error. I doubt you can stay here, let alone claim the largest room." "How dare you, Elizabeth? We don't require your permission to stay here. Our son will lead us to our room. If you won't, remember, this house isn't yours to decide if we stay." "You've misunderstood, Anna. I suppose Henry hasn't informed you yet. This house belongs to me, not him. Therefore, the largest room is not at your disposal. You'll have to make do elsewhere." "What? That's impossible. Henry has assured us he bought the house. You're lying." "Is that so? Well, why don't you confirm with Henry? I'm certain he'll clarify everything." "We will, Elizabeth. Henry, inform your wife that she's spreading falsehoods. Henry, affirm that you're the owner of the house, just as you've stated before. Joseph and Anna are eagerly awaiting your confirmation." I don't blame them again. It was Henry who misled his parents. However, Henry remained silent, avoiding eye contact and keeping his gaze on the floor. Gradually, it dawned on his parents that there might be truth in what I was saying. Although they couldn't fully believe it, all this time they perceived me as a gold digger with a mediocre job, contrasting their son as a hardworking and successful man. They urged Henry, "Why aren't you saying anything? You told us this house belongs to you. Speak up, Henry, tell her she can't evict us." I intervened. "What will he say, guys? He's been deceiving you all this time. I can even provide the property papers proving I am the sole owner of this house." They insisted that can't be true. You have a simple job and limited finances. Our son has a substantial income. There's no way this house is yours. I corrected Anna. Your son had a significant income. He also failed to disclose that he was fired from his job 2 years ago. Since then, he's been relying on my income. And by the way, I have a very good job. Just because I don't flaunt it doesn't make me financially unstable. The shock on Joseph and Anna's faces was palpable when I unveiled the truth. Henry, as usual, avoided eye contact, refusing to meet his parents' gaze. They persistently asked him to confirm my statement. He remained silent until I said, "Enough drama for 2 days. Joseph and Anna, I've hosted you in my house long enough. It's time for you both to gather your belongings and leave." Henry protested, "Elizabeth, you can't just evict my parents like that. They terminated their lease to be with us, and they have nowhere else to go. You can't put them on the streets." "Henry, I can and will proceed with these decisions. No consultation occurred before these choices were made, and your consideration was absent when ensuring them a place in my house. While this may be your residence, I am also your husband. If I decide that my parents will stay here, they will stay. You cannot evict them. This house belongs to our son as well, and anything that is yours is also his. You cannot force us out. Anna, I can indeed remove you, and Henry will be no exception. Since you're still legally married to me, Henry, I will draft an eviction notice for you. Don't worry, you won't remain married for long." "What do you mean, Elizabeth? Are you planning to divorce me?" "Yes, my dear husband, I am. I'll contact my lawyer tomorrow to schedule an appointment. We should be able to serve you with the divorce papers after 10 days. Henry panicked at the mention of divorce, displaying anger. He threatened to take half the house and claim alimony. However, I reminded him of the prenuptial agreement he and his parents had made me sign, stating that under no circumstances could we claim alimony from each other. Our private assets would remain ours and not be divided in case of divorce. Henry, now recalling the prenup, was taken aback. Suddenly, Henry and his parents understood the implications of the prenup. They suggested we refrain from an immediate divorce and instead have an adult conversation to discuss the situation. "Elizabeth, let's calm down and discuss this. I believe we can find a compromise that benefits everyone." "I don't care about your benefits, Henry. I won't be a cash cow for you, and I won't let your parents take advantage of me after how badly they treated me." "That was in the past, Elizabeth. Many years have passed. I'm sure you can look past it. It was a minor issue. You and your wife threatened to have me kicked out just a few minutes ago because I refused to house you. No use making excuses now. You and Anna need to leave before I call the cops. I'd prefer if Henry leaves too, but he'll get an eviction notice if needed." Henry, Joseph, and Anna begged me to change my mind. They had ended their lease, assuming they could move in with us. Henry thought he could convince me to play along as I did in the past. Little did he know I would stand up against him and stop being a pushover. I was done being the family doormat. They could go to hell for all I cared. When Anna and Joseph didn't leave even after an hour, I called the cops. They escorted them out, and Henry screamed at me for humiliating his parents. I reminded him he had a month to vacate my house. That made him switch to being apologetic and remorseful. From that night, I didn't allow Henry into my room. He stayed in the guest room until he had to leave, served with an eviction notice. Meanwhile, his parents, after spending a significant portion of their savings on a hotel, had to find a new place to rent. Surprisingly, they didn't allow Henry into their new place, leaving him scrambling for a place, just like his parents. It seemed they wanted Henry to pay for lying to them. Since then, their relationship has become strained, blaming each other for their present condition. His parents refused to support Henry anymore. He was only valuable when he had money. Henry had to couch surf at his friends until he got a job. I filed for divorce. There was no way I was staying with him. He disrespected me and revealed himself as a vain and selfish man, not the person I fell in love with. Henry tried to change my mind, but I was firm. I refused to be taken advantage of. Since we didn't have kids, we got divorced after 3 months of separation. In those 3 months, I rebuilt myself and started dating again. Henry still hopes we can get back together, but that will only happen in his dreams.